All right, y'all, we're going to take a look at this boudoir photography business today and see, if these two Google searches, local search and city search, have BSS, yes or no. So we're back here in the GBC universe where we're taking declining boudoir photographers to the #1 boudoir photographer in their city. As always, our North Star is FSIC, full spectrum intent capture. And more about that, pinned video, home post somewhere on this profile. And this is because FSIC explains why all boudoir photographers either rise or fall. So we got our FSIC graph here in white. Over on the left, we got the highest intent peeps, Google searchers, social searchers, searching for a boudoir photo shoot in their city today, right now. Focus on talk about BSS here in all our videos. Over on the right, we got the lowest intent peeps, peeps that ain't searching for a boudoir photo shoot in their city right now. And actually, most of them have no idea what the heck boudoir even is. We reach them through interruption ads on Instagram and Facebook. And we talk about that over on our sister brand, profiles, Boudoir FB Ad Doctor, where we talk about BLCS. And over there, we currently only work with boudoir photographers running more than 10 grand a month in boudoir Facebook ads. All right, so BSS is boudoir search sameness. That is when a boudoir photographer has either 0 or 1 slots on page 1 on Google. If we got 0 slots on page 1 on Google, man, we're basically already dead here. Because we now have the data, we know that approximately 80% of Google searches never even never even go to page 2. They're page 1 and done searches only. So approximately 80% of the marketplace. So that's the bulk of the marketplace. So we're invisible to 4/5 of people from page 2 or deeper. So we got to get on page 1. But 1 slot on page 1, that ain't enough. Because guess what? There's 10 organic slots on page 1, which means, if there's 9 other boudoir photographers, everyone's got 1 slot. Everyone looks the same. No one stands out. So guess what? A buyer is simply going to click down through everyone, open everyone's website, do price quotes, price shop, price compare, negotiate, and, that kills our margins. And since we're not, we don't look any different, we do not want either of these scenarios. Now, 0 1 slots on page 1 Google is actually not normal. It is the symptom of 2 deeper root causes. Those 2 deeper root causes are market saturation. So that's, more boudoir photographers entering the marketplace every single week, it seems like. Basically, anytime anyone gets a new iPhone or new camera, new gear, they're throwing up their Google My Business profile saying they shoot boudoir. They're throwing a website saying they shoot boudoir, and they are throwing up they're posting them on Facebook groups saying they now for boudoir photo shoots. So the same number of sellers, or large number of sellers to the same number of buyers, means it's harder for every single seller. Margins compress, people disappear. And so everyone really understands market saturation. It happened in a big way with COVID. People lost their jobs, so they still had to work. Everyone's got a phone with a great camera. Okay, easy to start a boudoir photography business. Market saturation. Now, the one most people don't know about is the false belief of page 1 equality. So it seems like a lot of boudoir photographers simply kind of, passively accept that, as a boudoir photographer, you're going to get either 0 or 1 slots on page 1 on Google, and that's simply how it is. But what actually happens is, let's say you got 1 slot on page 1 on Google, you're on like slot 8. A few new boudoir photographers into the market pushes our website back to slot, whatever, somewhere on page 2. And boudoir photographers are like, oh, well, that's how it is. You normally get either 0 or 1 slots page 1 on Google, and that's simply how it is. And this is 100% incorrect. And I know this because I went from 0 out of 10 slots page 1 on Google to 9 out of 10 slots page 1 on Google in only 10 days. So I know it's false this is a false belief of page 1 equality, that a boudoir photographer gets, 0 1 slots and that's it, because I went and did the opposite. So what I discovered was that Google actually give as many slots on page 1 as somebody wants to put in the effort to acquire. So, okay, now we can build a solution around this, and we've done that. See that in 2 pictures. Now, a boudoir photographer with BSS is a disappearing boudoir photographer at DBP. And, if we got 0 slots on page 1, we're on page 2 or deeper, invisible to approximately 80% of the marketplace. Obviously, we're disappearing. But if we're on page 1, we got 1 slot, we're still basically invisible. It's basically disappearing and being price shopped against everyone. Both cases are bad. And we care about disappearing boudoir photographer because if we are a disappearing boudoir photographer, that means our It's kind of like the warning light, the flashing check engine light, the warning signal, saying, hey, our boudoir photography business itself is on the path to actually disappearing. But thankfully, we now have a solution. We've discovered through testing that BSS is treated with social search saturation, aka S-cubed methodology. And S-cubed methodology, it works exactly as the name says. We saturate social search with the highest intent boudoir buyer keywords. So we show up there when they search them. And when we do this, when we saturate social search, that's kind of like all the snow on the backside of the Andes Mountains, the east side, down in South America. That snow melts, goes into small streams, flows into small streams, small rivers. That's social search saturation. And then that all flows into the Amazon River. That's page one search on Google is the Amazon River. So it all starts with saturating social search. And the interesting thing about SQ methodology is it's the only thing that I've seen that can allow the boudoir photography business to continue to grow in the face of market saturation and even massive market saturation. The only other second thing that could allow that is having a large, well-known brand. So brand would obviously solve that. But that takes 5 to 10 years to acquire. We don't have 5 to 10 years. AI is here taking people's jobs. We need to dominate fast and fight against market saturation as fast as possible. And something I see that, kind of looking at estimates here, I believe SQ methodology can actually help people build a brand actually approximately 8x faster than normal methods because we're showing up so frequently on so many different surfaces. So it's kind of like the only turbo brand builder boost thing out there. So imagine if you've got a large well-known brand and you're using SQ methodology, you're basically untouchable by market saturation. So an example of still growing in the face of market saturation, let's say we're in a boudoir. Let's say we're in, I want to go to Virginia Beach, Virginia. Let's say we're in Virginia Beach, Virginia. There's 1 million boudoir photographers there. Each boudoir photographer has their own website, and shoot boudoir. Everyone's fighting for those 10 organic page one slots on Google. Massive competition. And what actually happens is we're like, man, the only way we can compete, well, if we had brand, but we ain't got that large, well-known brand. So the only other second option is we got to utilize SQ methodology. So we take it, we crank it up to the max. And when we crank it up to the max, let's say we're ranking for the first 300 slots for the highest intent boudoir buyer keywords across all of social search. And when we do that, let's say that flows out onto Google, and we saturate the first 300 slots, page one, first 300 slots of Google for those highest intent boudoir buyer searches. And it's 10 organic slots per page on Google, so that means we're taking up literally the first 30 pages. And so for any boudoir buyers out there, anywhere they search, social search, Google search, we're basically the only boudoir photographer that pops up. We've literally taken all the slots from everyone else. This would be SQ methodology to the ultra super max. But if we're essentially the only one being found, whose business is growing? Ours, in the face of massive market saturation. Whose business is disappearing, slowing down, vanishing? Well, it's the 999,999 other boudoir photographers that can basically only be found Google page 31 or deeper. And we already know approximately 80% of searches never even hit page 2. So dude, who's actually going to page 31? Ain't nobody going to page 31. Now, once you're with SQ methodology, we have page 1 visibility, P1V. So initial benefit, more slots, page 1 on Google. Second initial benefit is actually, we take those more slots on Google, we're actually kicking competing boudoir photographers off page 1 and putting them on page 2 or deeper, effectively making them invisible. And when we do that, we actually turn them into disappearing boudoir photographers, and eventually they'll most likely exit the market. So a lot of boudoir photographers actually get this benefit better than the first one we talked about. Now, page 1 visibility activates boudoir search visibility for us. So the GBC universe recommends, as a recommended minimum, of getting 3 out of 10 slots on Google page 1. And that's because if everyone else has got 1 slot, our 3 slots, we're going to dominate them, look way better. People wonder why Google's recommending us so much and be clicking through ours. And in the super rare case someone else has 2 links, well, guess what? We are R3 still looks better than there too. So we're basically dominating all scenarios here. And a boudoir photographer with BSV is a visible boudoir photographer, a VBP. So this is our micro universe here. We got a disappearing boudoir photographer with boudoir search sameness caused by the dual horns of market saturation and the false belief of page one equality, which now we know is false. And we now have a solution. We can utilize S-cube methodology to solve all this. Achieve page one visibility, become a visible boudoir photographer with boudoir search visibility. All right, now my results, utilizing S-cube, purely utilizing S-cube methodology for myself. So I want to, frank for the term here, BLCS Boudoir, I want to dominate page one of Google, BLCS Boudoir. So I utilize S-cube methodology, started with 0 out of 10 links on page one of Google. And let's see what I was able to get to. So we got organic, slot 1, Instagram, me. Slot 2, me. Slot 3, me. Slot 4, me. Slot 5, me. Slot 6, me. Slot 7, me. Slot 8, me. Slot 10, me. So I was able to go from 0 out of 10 slots page one on Google to 9 out of 10 slots page one on Google in only 10 days. And these are my results I got purely using S-cubed methodology. All right, so now we're here, the main event. You're gonna see that this boudoir photography business has BSS for their local search. Gonna see if they have it for their city search. All right, so here we go. Boudoir photographer, Roseville, California. So let's see what we got here. All right, we got one. Let's see. All right, we got two. All right, so we got 2 out of 10, so we do not have BSS for the local search, but we did not hit the recommended GBC minimum of 3 out of 10. So now let's look at the full city search. Sacramento. So let's see here. Let's see, we got nope, 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 nope. Nope. All right, so it looks like we got 0 out of 10 here for Sac. All right, so we're missing a bunch of Sacramento peeps. All right, so final verdict, we got, well, we do not have BSS for Roseville, the local search, but we did not meet the GBC minimum, recommended minimum of 3 out of 10. And for the city search, yeah, we got BSS. We're at 0 out of 10 there. And we're actually, we also did not meet the recommended GBC minimum of 3 out of 10 organic page one Google slots. So if you're a disappearing boudoir photographer, you've done local search for the highest intent buyer keywords in your city, and you saw in your local area, and you did a second search in your city, and you saw that you actually do have BSS in one or both of the cities, or you saw that you did not meet the GBC recommended minimum of 3 out of 10 page one slots, and you're saying, oh, finally, thank the universe, something to finally solve this. S-cube methodology is here, so you decide you want to use S-cube methodology, and that's because you know page one equality is a false belief, which allows you to even look for a solution in the first place. And once you do that, you like the initial benefit, more slots on page one. You like the other initial benefit, kicking more competitors off of page one, so that way fewer, your price shop gains way fewer number of boudoir photographers. And you understand the market saturation. Yeah, there's 2 prongs. People get a new iPhone, cool, more boudoir photographers. People get a new camera, cool, more boudoir photographers. But you're actually thinking of this new third prong. You're thinking ahead. You're saying, okay, AI's taking a few people's jobs now. It's going to keep taking more and more people's jobs into the future, into the future, into the future. And as it takes more and more people's jobs into the future, into the future, into the future, you actually, you actually want to fortify your position on page one, prepare for the onslaught of new boudoir photographers, be forced to enter the market because, look, people still got to earn money. If they lose their job, they still got, they got a phone with amazing cameras. So we know people will be, new boudoir photographers will always be entering. And so you want to fortify your position, kind of like the levees down in Nolens, Louisiana, because that city's like below sea level. So I got to throw the levees up, extra fortification, so they're gonna get flooded. So you're seeing that, and you actually saying, okay, SQL methodology can also use for exactly that, fortifying your existing presence, page one, and across all social search. And you actually want to have page one visibility, become a visible boudoir photographer, and achieve boudoir search visibility, because you need those things in order to become the #1 boudoir photographer in your city. And you also like the extra back-end things that SQ methodology does, where if you successfully execute it every day, you're increasing the probability every single day. Well, we execute it every day. That AI overview will recommend you. And that's because when we do SQ methodology, we're actually building these invisible thematic keyword columns for AI search to take in, kind of occupy more and more AI mind space or brain space in all these different AIs. So we're building different invisible thematic keyword columns, kind of like columns with Parthenon, Athens, and Greece, or like hub and spoke, like a bicycle tire, or where the hub in the middle are, or at least our business name across all socials and our website is the hub in the middle. And as we build these up more, we got more frequency, more authority, more relevance, more age. So all these increase the probability of us being recommended for the premium placement AI overview, and us being recommended in all the AI search platforms: ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Microsoft Copilot, Google Gemini. And as a result, kind of this like invisible momentum we can build up. And you're saying you decide you're going to be the first one in your city to do this, because that my current plan right now is to work with only one boudoir photographer at a time. So you can actually close out all your competitors from doing this, get all these initial benefits, build up this invisible momentum, put a massive gap between you and the current boudoir photographers, and especially the future boudoir photographers that will eventually become boudoir photographers as AI eats more and more jobs. And you also know doing SQ methodology also supremely speeds up forming your own brand. So it helps compete against current market saturation, and doubly so, helps your brand become a household name way faster. My estimate is probably 8 times faster than traditional ways. Just because, dude, we're everywhere all the time. Social search, Google search, AI search. Just people won't be able to get away from us. And on the flip side, you see that if another competitor, if one of your competitors in your city works with me, and we do all those things for them, they get all those initial benefits, and the momentum built up for the secondary later on benefits, then what actually happens is there's a big gap between me and your competitor and then you. And to close that gap, you got to increase the well, first you got to derive for yourself the first time execute methodology, how it actually works and how to successfully implement it. And then you got to go execute it day, and equal our effort. And if you do that correctly, well, you're never going to be 100% confident executing it, because you'll never be 100% confident you've derived it correctly. But even if you're equaling all our effort, you're simply maintaining the gap between me and your competitor and you. And so to outcompete us, you got to rederive it correctly, figure it out all correctly, and then you got to out execute us by like 2 or 3x. And it's like, dude, who's got the 80 hours in the day to do all that? So you decide to screw that. It's better for you to actually be the first mover in your city, lock out all your competitors from using this, and kind of roll this to victory. So if that's you, shoot me a DM when my DMs open. My DMs are currently closed. The hospital is currently closed to new patients. But when I do open my DMs, shoot me a DM, and we will see if you qualify to utilize S-cubed methodology.